For the better part of a decade, the answer to every question about hidden motors in cycling was the same. The scanning program works. The tests are being done. The results are clean. Then, in June of 2024, the president of the governing body sat down for an interview and said something rather different about the equipment doing most of that scanning. He said it was better than nothing, and then he said it was not consistent enough. That is not a headline that ends a sport. It is a sentence a lawyer would sign off. But it matters, because of who said it, and because of what the same organization did in the 18 months either side of it. The speaker was David Lappartient, president of the UCI. The subject was the handheld tablet, the device the sport uses to scan bicycles for concealed motors. Take the reported wording carefully, because this is exactly the kind of quote that gets inflated in the retelling. In one account, he says it is better than nothing but not consistent enough, and that you can cheat even with a tablet. In another, he says he does not trust that the tablets are strong enough to fight technological fraud. The outlets differ in the exact phrasing around it. What both agree on, word for word, is the core: better than nothing, but not consistent enough. He did not say the sport's testing is worthless. He did not announce that riders are getting away with it, and neither will this video, because there is no evidence for that claim. What he expressed was a personal lack of confidence in the primary instrument. Now put a number next to that instrument. Across 2023, handheld tablets carried out 88% of all motor doping tests conducted in professional cycling. Not some of them, not the routine ones. Nearly 9 in every 10 checks the sport performed on the bicycles in its races were performed with the device its own president would go on to describe as not consistent enough. That is the tension at the center of this story, and it is worth sitting with rather than sprinting past. It is not evidence of a cover-up. It is something more ordinary and more difficult. An organization using the only practical tool it has at the scale it needs, while knowing that the tool has limits. And the scale is not trivial, which is what makes the admission land. At the 2021 Tour de France alone, the governing body carried out 720 tests across 15 stages, 606 of them pre-stage tablet checks, and 114 post-stage X-ray checks. Every one of them came back negative. This is not an organization that has been ignoring the problem. It is an organization doing a great deal of testing, publishing the totals and finding nothing, while its president says the instrument behind most of that work is not consistent enough. There is a second quote from that same conversation, and it is the one that tells you how seriously the problem is taken internally. The worst thing for the UCI, Lappartient said, would be if it were informed of a case of technological fraud and did nothing. That, he said, would not only destroy cycling, but the institution itself. Read that again, because it is a strange thing for a governing body to say out loud. He is not describing the danger of motors in bicycles. He is describing the danger of knowing about one and failing to act. The nightmare he named was not the cheating. It was the institutional failure to respond to it. And here is what makes this episode more than a collection of quotes. The organization did not simply talk. In the year around those remarks, it did two concrete things, and both of them are the actions of a body that has stopped relying on its scanning alone. The first was a hire. On the 10th of April 2024, the UCI announced the appointment of Nicholas Raudensky as head of the fight against technological fraud. He took up the post on the 1st of May. His background is not cycling. It is investigations, 23 years of them. He spent a substantial part of his career at the United States Department of Homeland Security, serving as a deputy attaché, an international program manager, and a supervisory investigator. He then moved into sport, with 5 years at FIFA and 2.5 at UEFA. Immediately before joining the UCI, he was head of intelligence and investigations at the International Testing Agency, a role he had held since August of 2021. That is not the resume of an equipment specialist. It is the resume of somebody who builds cases out of people, informants, and intelligence. Announcing the appointment, Lappartient said that pursuing an effective fight against technological fraud was a key element of the UCI's Agenda 2030. and that the organization was delighted to have him on board to rule out any possibility of athletes getting away with cheating. The second thing the sport did follows logically from the first, and it is the part that tends to surprise people. On the 27th of September, 2024, meeting in Zurich during the Road World Championships, the UCI Management Committee confirmed a rewards program for whistleblowers who provide information about technological fraud. The sport started paying informants. The mechanics were published in outline. Support can take the form of material assistance, financial assistance, or monetary and other value rewards. The size of any reward is weighed against the effort and investment the source has put in, and against the risk of hardship or repercussion that comes from speaking. What was not published, and still has not been, is how much money is actually on the table. No figures were given. Think about what a scheme like that is for. A scanner examines an object. An informant reports a decision. One of them finds a motor in a frame. The other finds the conversation that put it there, the mechanic who fitted it, the invoice that paid for it. Governing bodies turn to informants when they conclude that the physical evidence, on its own, is arriving too late or not at all. There is also hardware behind this, and it did not come cheap. According to reporting by Cycling News, the governing body's X-ray equipment for detecting hidden motors carries a price tag of around 600,000 euros, with the machine unveiled at a press conference in Geneva in March of 2018. It is worth noting that the equipment itself has been quietly escalating for years, which tells the same story from a different angle. The magnetic resonance tablets arrived in 2016. A mobile X-ray cabinet followed in 2018. Backscatter and transmission devices were added in 2021. Each edition is an admission in its own right, because you do not keep buying new ways of looking if you are satisfied with the way you already had. So assemble the sequence, because the sequence is the argument. The sport builds a scanning program and runs the overwhelming majority of its checks on a handheld tablet. Its president says publicly that the tablet is better than nothing, but not consistent enough. The organization hires a career criminal investigator out of American federal law enforcement to run the unit, and then it establishes a fund to pay people who come forward with information. That is what an institution does when it has concluded that it cannot scan its way to certainty. If you want the documented record on this subject rather than the rumor, subscribe to the Peloton Files. None of that is proof that anybody in professional cycling is riding a hidden motor. It is worth being blunt about that, because the inference is tempting and it is not supported. In the 10 years since the only confirmed case in the sport's history, not one professional road rider has ever been caught, and the governing body's own published testing has returned negative every time. But there is a difference between a sport that believes its tests are catching everything and a sport that has started paying strangers for tips. Only one of those is confident. Cycling used to tell you the scans were clean. It still runs the scans. It just no longer sounds like an organization that thinks the scans are the answer.